According to the cloud. All right. This was in the chat just now. So I've seen these, I haven't played with these. This is a crow pie. It's like they've got, all right, so this is looking like maybe they're taking over the mantle that was Pi top as far as the laptop is concerned. You can see they have a laptop with a keyboard, and the keyboard pops out, right? And it's got all kinds of goodness inside. Right? So just as another crazy cool example, you can go kind of look at what's on there. So 339, an advanced kit, a deluxe kit. You want the biggest raspberry, you're getting really expensive all of a sudden. So 639. Look, it's got all kinds of really goodness in there. Ultrasonic sensor, light sensors, an RC522, an RFID module, 8x8 matrix, sensors, like all the stuff built into it. So it looks like you just, so you have here, right? You have the GPIO interface, and then you've got a breadboard, and you can then, looks like wire to the other sensors. Interesting. Yeah, that's cool. So CrowPi 2, CrowPi L, and then they've got, so I think we were looking at the 2. Let's go ahead and put that on our list of gear. I think that's worthy. And I've seen kind of this original one where they just kind of packing it into a little suitcase. I think it's a cool concept for sure. Awesome. Yeah, I like that. Very cool. All right. So let's see. Sharing's on. I've got my chat window. Got my video. Shares. It slowly goes down. So too funny. I'm gonna blame the chair. All right. So let's start the afternoon. Let's take a look at, so these are the 3 courses, connecting things, security, big data analytics. That's, these are the Cisco, oops. Let me turn that off. So connecting things, security, big data analytics. These courses are the courses that are available until next July. So part of what we want to look at today is, beyond the actual content of the chapter. I'm going to click on the read. That'll take us out to the material. What do we feel like today? Let's do that. I'm going to click on course index on the bottom, and I'm going to click on lab index to kind of take a look at, the labs and what they do. These first 4 labs are actually like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All of these are those ones that I talked about the other day where I I do them as a partner project, and students don't have a choice in their partner, and they've got to meet 3 or 4 people during the course of that class period. And I think they're all good labs. You can probably rebuild them as your own labs. They're basically kind of getting the mindset, and getting the student in the mindset of taking a bigger problem and breaking it into smaller pieces, kind of like a recipe, right? And the idea is that we want to take that and apply that to programming later. But taking the bigger project, breaking it down, making it small chunks, dealing with each chunk individually, and then handing off the result of that chunk to the next chunk, and then process it more and hand it off to the next chunk, that kind of thing. So that's on the chapter 1. Those are the labs. Chapter 2, we kind of ran through this yesterday when we were talking about the Arduino and the Tinker kit, right? So there's a lab called World Runs on Circuits. It's more of a research thing. There's a digital oscilloscope, which I haven't really used that. I haven't used these first 2 labs at all in my courses. I think if the course was more, if you're doing a course that's more electronics component based, right, then possibly running the oscilloscope and understanding the oscilloscope. I don't have the projects that my students are doing, and the focus of my class doesn't need them to know what an oscilloscope does. And then I do this designing a circuit from start to finish. That's going to be a Tinkercad thing. So that's something that you could easily replicate that project and or add more projects, or require them to maybe map out on Tinkercad first what they're going to build before they build it, right? So it's kind of the design process. Okay, and then you get into the labs that are Arduino based. So there's a blinking LED, RGB LED, photoresistor, the flex sensor. This is the one I eliminated that one from the mix, because when they went from the Tinker kit, the experimental kit, which the experiment kit, what is it called? The SparkFun Inventors kit, right? When they moved from that kit, which was a $100 kit, down to the Tinker kit, which is a $50 kit, that part was eliminated from the whole mix. And that part alone, the flex sensor part, cost $8, right, by itself. And this is also good. Click here for an alternative for potentiometer and servo, okay, which is cool. This lab, I'm talking about the flex sensor. It's this little thing right here, right? So, and if you were going to build something where you move your finger and you wanted that to be an indicator, then maybe that would be worthy of that. But if you're not doing that, that's a super expensive part for this one silly project. And the Tinker kit, which is my replacement for all of these, is that Tinker kit assignment that we talked about yesterday. The Tinker kit has a potentiometer servo configuration, right? So it does essentially the same thing minus this $8 sensor. Okay, so I've replaced that entire bank of all of these, except for the relays. I still have them do the relay. However, the relay, this relay lab that they have here, right, is eerily similar to SparkFun Inventors Guide Circuit 13. Same exact lab, like exactly the same exact lab. Right? So, and they show, so I have them come here instead, right? So I don't need, we don't need to use anything that's in the Cisco material as I'm doing Arduino stuff. We do the Tinker kit, which is going to cover all of the different parts in the Tinker kit. And then I have them come here to circuit 13 using the relays. This transistor, the diode, and the relay, that's about $3 in parts. The relay, to me, has a lot more future play as far as an IoT device, right? So if you want to do anything where you're tripping, 110 voltage for, with an Arduino, you'll need a relay of some sort. So I want them to know how to do that. So that's why I've included that in my particular set of labs. So these are all really good, like IoT labs. However, I think that it's easy. I mean, to me, like everything up to this point, with we can actually utilize some other form of lab, some other alternatives for those labs. Okay, so I'm looking at the chat. So Arduino. So Marcelo, when you say that, did you use the instructions that came with the lab? Or does I can't get the Amazon anymore.
Amazon. I just used this Arduino kit instead of going with the Spark Fun one because I mean, for $59 or $60 exactly.
Yeah.
You got a lot more sensors, and I just used those. It worked beautifully. So
good. Okay.
I didn't have those, the flexible sensor, but we did a lot of other things. And one thing that I did, in fact, I did provide Raspberry Pis to students, but I asked the students to buy the Arduino kit. And the reason is I don't have to deal with sorting resistors
there you
at
go.
the end of the semester.
Right. Keep this mess to yourself.
Right. Exactly. If you take everything out of the box, good luck putting back in the box.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you there. I think I could see that. I'm trying to figure out. I'm going over to my settings here while you're talking. I'm trying to find why. There it goes. Amazon is still blocked. Okay, so save that. All right, so there you go. So this is the kit he's talking about. So that's a humongous kit. That's really nice. All kinds of fun things. So I would typically, so what I've had the students do, so I've had them buy their own kits for a while, is on the Arduino. So instead of buying, extra stuff, I have them probably go kind of this route, right? And let's maybe save a couple dollars. Like here's the comparable kit. Like this kit and this kit are real similar to the Tinker kits, and they save $10, $15, $20. So I've kind of gone that route with the Arduino side of things. However, I really we don't use this display yet, but I really want to start using the display. It just adds an extra element to their, does your kid have one? Yeah, your kid has one down there, right? So I don't know, that's something to think about. So, so from a Cisco perspective, I'm just using purely, I use the Tinker kit or a similar product so that I know that we can do all those labs. And then if they were to buy the Vilros kit, like the motor driver kit doesn't work, the motor driver instructions don't work, but they have instructions that come with the Vilros kit for them to do the motor assignment that includes the parts from the Vilros kit. So that tends to work good. So I think any of those options are really good options for the Arduino side of the house. Okay, so my hope, and when we'll look on Thursday, is possibly using something like this book. It's hard to see the book, but there you go. It's a MicroPython book on the with the Pico, right? So it does the same kind of stuff with the Pico. Maybe a tad bit cheaper, but then also kind of sticking to the Python theme of things. I don't know. We'll see. I haven't really made up my mind. I wanted to experiment with it here and let have a group of us look at it and see what we think. But just from a lab perspective in the material here, then you get into the Raspberry Pi, right? And I do these first two labs, which are the PL app. That's installing the operating system that's provided by Cisco. They have, if you're not familiar with it, or let me go there real quick, because if you go to, so you need to get the image, but it should take us out to the large files. Yeah, so what they've done, here's the connecting thing. So here's the PL app launcher. That's the software that you install on your PC or your Mac. There's one for PC, one for Mac. That allows you to then configure, right, to do the writing of the SD card, and then you connect to it using the same application. It looks something like this. So and I'm not sure who's taught or hasn't taught connecting things at this point. So this is the setup, right? So I would put the SD card reader in, and I would get an SD, I'd get a drive here. Then the file that I'm going to use, I have to download one of these images. There's a regular image, and then there's a Pi4 image, right? So they did come back in and fix the Pi4 image, or the image, so that it works on the Pi4. So highly recommend, if they are using a Pi4, that they use the newer, the bigger image. But you download either launcher, run the launcher, you download either image, I extract the image and then have them do the setup. They have to name the device, set a password. If they're on Wi-Fi, they would set the Wi-Fi, and then they write the image. This program, 99 times out of 100, will fail at the end of the write. It'll give you a can't write the config file. You simply click OK and then click the update config, and it will then update the config file properly. And once it does that, then it becomes listed over here. And then once you've moved the SD card into a Raspberry and boot it, about 2 or 3 minutes later, it will come online and you should be able to connect. That's typically how it's supposed to work. I have had times where students have put the SD card in and it just doesn't show up. The write didn't happen properly, or something, the boot process is acting funny, or so we've had to troubleshoot some things like that, which online is really difficult to troubleshoot exactly what their problem is. But that's just so you get to know that. So when you do that, you have access to all of the labs that are built into the class. Right? So all of the labs that are on the PL app are built in, and they're automatically there. They're all in Jupyter notebooks. You open up the Jupyter notebook and you run all the code from inside the notebook. You have all the instructions in the notebook. That's what we were talking about earlier when Marcelo was talking about that. I think that's a really good process for quite a few of these things. But if you're doing big data, it has its own image. And if you're doing security, it has its own image as well. In the material here, we don't need to set those up, because in the material, we can actually look at the instructions, right? Which one? So I went to 3223 lab. This is just the setting up the PL app. Every single class, the IoT security class, big data, and connected things will have a lab setting up the PL app. And if you go there and you simply click on one of the links, the PL app image link usually works just fine. That takes you to this page, right? So then at that page, they find which class they're doing, and the launcher is all the same. There's no difference in the launcher. What's different is the images, right? So this image, there's an image for everything up to the Raspberry Pi 3, or up to and including the Pi 3, and then there's an image for everything after the Pi 4. Okay, and this one's connecting things, this one's big data analytics, and this one is security. Right. Also on security, you'll need, there's a couple of OVAs that you need to get, the Kali Linux and the Metasploitable. And you set up in that class, you actually set up a virtual machine using Oracle's Open. Is it? Am I right? Open box? No, Open something. Right? Oracle's virtual machine software. VirtualBox. Yeah. So in security, you actually have you run 2 virtual machines on your desktop, and you connect your computer from there. And there's actually an assignment where you connect up to 3 Pis to the same network. And I usually have, when we do that lab, I usually have students, each student has one of those Pis. All right. And so I just wanted to, like in this case, I'm just wanting to talk through the labs here, right? So there's a thing about writing simple Python scripts, writing scripts with the text editor, right? So those two labs, because I have my students doing Python lessons as part of their training, those two labs become redundant. So we don't need them. Blinking an LED, right? So that one is like using the PL app to connect to the Raspberry Pi. I think, does it have, no, the LED lines later on. So that's just a simple blinking the LED light. And that's part of I do an in-class lab where we walk through setting up a blinking LED. So again, that makes that process or that lab kind of we don't need it because we do it as part of teaching them how to use physical computing on the Raspberry Pi. But I also, not only do we blink an LED, we add a button and we control the LED from a button. And then we add, we build a traffic light. So we do kind of a multi-stage process, just learning how the LED works. I haven't used the Exploring the World of Cybersecurity Professionals. I've looked at it. I think it's a decent research assignment, but I kind of felt like it really didn't fit. We're learning Raspberry Pi stuff, and then all of a sudden we stopped to talk about cybersecurity professionals. So it's kind of weird. And then working with WebEx teams, that stopped working properly unless I don't think they ever updated it. But that stopped working.
It worked for me this semester.
Really?
Yep. So
okay, because it hasn't worked for a long time.
You worked on, and in fact, I did another completely different lab using WebEx, so where they were turning on and off lights the entire house, and
oh wow, okay,
turning on or closing the garage door, opening the garage door, those kind of things.
Okay,
so it did work this last time.
Because it hasn't for me it's been probably 3 years. 2 years at least, because about, I don't know, what, a year in, they changed the website. And one of the instructions has you go, and normally when they change instructions, I'm okay with that. Honestly, I'm usually it's not a problem, but it literally took 3 of us, 2 students and me, 45 minutes to find where this thing had been relocated. It was crazy.
Which is funny because I look at that and it's like, well, this website no longer exists.
Yeah.
So, and I, just look at it again and I went to the Cisco DevNet. I said, oh, they moved everything to this stuff. So I moved the URLs, but somebody in the class did not follow my instruction and was able to do the older one. So, and they said, no, it still works. Okay. I said, okay. All right.
Yeah, so I'm not sure about that. I think what, that one is where, for WebEx, basically what you're doing is you're connecting to, you set up an account on WebEx and then you connect to it. I believe it uses keys, right? Access tokens.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So instead of using that, which was really painful for us, our experience was, it was painful. So instead of using that, we started using, I do a Twitter assignment, which also uses access tokens.
Right.
We use IFTTT a couple times, which uses access tokens. So the idea and the concepts that are taught there, I replaced them with something else.
So yeah, pretty much exactly. The Twitter is identical to the WebEx, very similar. Yeah. There's no difference there.
And it's a really straightforward lab for most students to get through. So again, I'm kind of pointing out, and I think the reason why, one of the reasons why they're retiring these things is because all of this stuff changes so fast. They'd have to have somebody maintain this thing constantly. So I think that may be part of the reason for them. I don't know, maybe it's a numbers thing. Maybe there's, we're just the smallest, we're a small group of folks that actually use and teach the IoT connecting things. I don't know if is anybody using the IoT security class? It's a really good class. I'm really sad that one's not. It could be a standalone security class, just using the Raspberry Pis as an example on how to use it. So
I think they're making a mistake getting rid of that because I think the security people need to have an understanding of it. We just had a Pi that somebody unplugged my DHCP server, plugged their Pi in, and then they wondered why there was so many SSH requests going on. I'm like, and then they went in the room and saw the Pi and took it out. I'm like, well, you know, maybe these students need to learn. You know, they need to know.
The IoT security class, like it's, I mean, it literally, and which we're going to talk about that in 2 weeks, but I mean, it's not the whole time, but I mean, part of it is because it covers like connecting physically, and then it talks about how, you know, it does some firmware examples. It does, you know, attacking the communications, it attacks the application level. Like it really kind of digs into each of those and gives you a good perspective on, you know, those different pieces, which I haven't seen that in, you know, in any other format. Like it's just not there. So I don't know. It is what it is. I mean, I think one of the reasons I want to kind of talk about this is because it's just there are ways around these labs not being available, right? So if this goes away, my thing at that point is to make sure that I find you know, content, like the written content, book content, quiz content that is in par or on par with what we're doing here. From a lab perspective, right? If you have Python in your class, then like having them learn Python scripting at this point is not needed. You can do a Blink LED tutorial online without even thinking about it. I've replaced the WebEx stuff with Twitter. And that was, again, because my experience with the WebEx labs was really horrendous. And then the one thing's like there's interfacing Arduino code and Python code. We don't do that lab, but we do a lab later on where we're using Arduino code and Python code. I think actually like these 3 labs in the PL app are pretty cool because this one you're using a button that's in the PL app to control an LED. However, there's a book out there that we use that I use from, that's a Raspberry Pi book on using Python to create GUIs. And so I've kind of replaced the control, that piece, that control mechanism with them having, you know, doing Python GUIs, right? And then using the Python GUI to control things. So for the most part, like we get it. I think this one here maybe is the only one that we really don't have like a replacement for. What are we doing? So this is a photoresistor. Right. I'm trying to see this. Yeah, photoresistor. Okay, so you do this lab in chapter 6 again, like you do. We do almost the same exact thing. This one is sending data to, so we actually do this lab as part of that chapter 6 lab. So this would just be kind of pulling that piece out. So again, just trying to look through these labs and say, well, you know, when this goes away, if they don't replace it, based on what we currently are teaching, can we, like I've done, you know, construct our own in our own school's LMS and replace these labs and things with that. This one here though, no, the line graph one. So I know you can, I haven't found one, I haven't looked for one, but this is kind of a fun one where you can control a line of LEDs. We've added a camera to our mix. So this is kind of one of those labs that took a hit, right? We don't do that particular lab, but we do add several camera labs to our course. And then later on, so that's chapter 3, right? So what I've done to replace these, I have Python in my class. Then I have a introduction to physical computing lab that they do, which is single LEDs, LED with button, stoplight, Morse code, right? So there's 4 pieces to that puzzle, and that's just using the LEDs. And then we go into a camera setup. We do a Twitter application. And then later on in chapter 5, in chapter 6, we do this IFTTT lab, which is a duplicate of the interfacing Arduino. So then the power plant lab, that's going to be MongoDB, which I really like that lab. That's the reason we do the PL app, is to do that lab and 63111, the record sunrise and sunset. So the record sunrise and sunset, I'm 100% positive it can be done outside of the PL app, because we did it we did it like 2 years ago at the one of the last in-person winter conferences we did that lab in the lab in an hour and a half. So I know that one's doable. And I don't really, by the time we get there, the timing of this and like drawing a flow chart for this and a schematic, we just don't do that. These pieces, even though I think it probably makes sense to do those, to build up this project as a bigger kind of a final project in the course. To me, it's just another assignment, another project that preps us to do the final. So then I have my final, depending on the semester, the students pick a project they want to do, and as long as it fulfills the requirements, they build the project. They have about 3 weeks to build the project. They have to do an up to 5 to 8 minute video explaining the project, and then we share those videos with everybody at that point. But that's like from a lab perspective, right? There's some things missing in between here and here, right? That the way I've constructed my classes, we have Arduino, and then we do physical computing. We set up the Raspberry, then we do physical computing with the Raspberry, and then we do internet-based stuff. So the internet-based stuff will be that Twitter. It's also going to be one of these initial state, like we do that dashboard from initial state. We do an IFTTT lab that I took out of the, I think it's out of the security class. Yeah, it's the one with the tweet where you send a tweet and it turns a light back and forth. So I pulled that one over. So I have a sandwiched in between, say in between here at the end of chapter 3 and chapter 5, right? So covering, that space, that couple of weeks in between there, we do like 5 or 6 internet connected types of projects, okay? So the way the course goes is you start learning Python. We teach you Arduino and how to use the sensors and how to do the wiring. Then we take that and move that over to the Raspberry Pi and do physical computing with the Raspberry Pi. We introduce you to the camera. Then we take all of that stuff that you learned so far and we start to connect those things to the internet in different ways, in different fashions, using different connectivity processes, different tools, different websites, things like that. And then we move into that MongoDB, which is in yet another internet connectivity component. And then we move into chapter 6, which is IFTTT and Google, 2 more internet components. So by the time you're done, you've created probably 5 or 6 different projects where you have internet connectivity, physical computing devices, and you have a basic Python understanding so that you can find a project online that you can replicate. And I have them combined 2 projects. So find 2 similar things that you could put together to make something new as the final, okay? So I think the labs in here are good. There are simple alternatives. With the exception, I haven't really found, I'm sure there's one out there, but I haven't found one of this. What this one is you actually have to set up a MongoDB database online, and you have 2 Raspberry Pis pointed to the same database, and you have a single entry in the database set to false. On one Raspberry Pi, you have a button, and on one Raspberry Pi, you have 2 LEDs, one green and one red. As long as if you press and hold the button, that turns that false record to true. And if the Raspberry Pi that has the LEDs sees the value as true, it will flip from green to red. That's just an indicator that there's a problem. As soon as you let go of the button, the light turns back to, or the record turns back to false, and the light turns back to green. So it's a unique way of putting that together. So I'm sure there's some lab out there that's built to do that. But this is a really good, simple example of how to make that happen. So I really want to figure out how to duplicate that out on its own. So that when this goes away, we have that lab built. So I have all those labs already kind of ready. I use them all the time, and if you've taken any of my classes before, most of those labs are already in that material. If you need those labs, I can print them, save them, copy them, whatever, and get those out to you. But yeah, so that's just way to kind of trying to find a way to make sure that we have an ongoing way to continue to teach the IoT class, if and when this goes away for real. Any questions on that?
I was thinking maybe the solution is just to install Jupyter Notebook on the Raspberry Pi.
Yeah, so that's possible.
As a server, and then you have both worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the only thing that you have to do at that point is you got to make sure, and this was kind of the issue with this, getting this project to work off of, not on a PL app, is that there are some libraries that have been installed.
Right.
And they get installed in the background, right? Because Chestnut is kind of a modified deal, right? Which is that's the image. That's what it's called. The image is called Chestnut. And there were several times where I couldn't figure out which exact library they were installing, things like that. So it's either finding other examples or figuring out exactly what libraries are being installed. So as long as you have those libraries installed properly, or they become part, at the beginning of each assignment, here's the libraries that we need to install. Then that would be perfectly fine, right? So as long as you have those installed, you're good to go.
Maybe we need a repository of labs to share with us.
Yeah.
Between us, yeah.
I think that would be awesome. Like some way for us to have, labs that are similar, like people can create them. I'm gonna write that down. I like that idea.
The folks Texas, or was there? Is the Summer Connection?
Oh yeah.
Folks, they did an IoT net lab thing.
Okay.
So, but I look into it and I don't really consider IoT. It is mainly CIS networking stuff.
Yeah.
So, but they do, and they do. It is just a matter of sending an email to Mark Dempsey and request, and he will give all the source files and everything that you need.
Okay. Yeah, I'll ask him. I'm actually we're going to do this workshop in person in July.
Okay.
Out there. So, so they call it it's an IoT on.
Yeah, let me get to my email.
What do you call it? IoT Labs. Just Mark Dempsey. Okay.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah, we got to figure out a way to add that, so part of the thing, and I think a lot of folks, when I was asking questions early on, is they want resources that they can use, and I'm like, the way I function, I just go grab, I grab the resources I need because I'm really comfortable with that, and I know that a lot of folks aren't comfortable with just grabbing resources, especially if they've never tried them before. So I want to kind of figure out a way, how can we condense that down, say, okay, here's a lab at the beginning of the lab, here's the software libraries that you need, and whatever, and you can kind of create, I don't know, I think that'd be something I should do, right? Something that I need to do. I have a functioning IoT course in my already built, and I use it on a day-to-day basis, and it is based on a lot on what Cisco has done here. However, I think there's other online resources, and then my labs are slightly different. Like I just replaced them with other labs, so I think we could probably recreate all of those labs as PDFs, or like you said, we could probably build out we could probably do our own image right?
Right.
That has, you know, the PL app on it and all the labs built into it. So cool. Let's talk after class.
All right.
like either one of us have time for a project like that. But if we don't, it's never going to get done, right? It's just never going to happen. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And then I think what I also like is like the ability for people to, you know, or for instructors to kind of pick and choose which labs they want to do and not do out of that. So cool. But that is, I just want to, like, I want to make sure that you're familiar with what Cisco has put together, right? It's still usable for the fall, the spring, and the summer semester. So another pretty much year of use where you can use it exactly as it's put together, I'll try to spend some time here over the summer trying to consolidate my course so that it's nice and clean. And then we'll start to maybe look at how do we create something similar only for the purpose of, you know, you having something to use when Cisco stops allowing us to use this one.
Wouldn't it be nice, you know, you've done so much work. I still think that it would be great to have a course shell that perhaps is HTML based or something like that. And then, you know, it has you link out to other things, but it takes a lot to go and edit it. But have it where people could join. I mean, people could pay you just to join it as an instructor to get access to the instructor resources so that we wouldn't have, so your investment would be good, but also that's why it's such a problem teaching this class is all this work that's gone into it.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I think I like the idea too. I'm trying to figure out a way to make that a resource, right? So that you have those resources available. And I think the way I've organized it in my class, and like, because I spent a lot of time trying to think through that whole process, but there's also, there's now some IoT certifications out there that maybe we could build it out where that, you could eventually, if you wanted to do a battery of things, you could probably, end with a certification at the end of that, kind of more on the industrial side of things. Like, I think this class gets us to a point, right? And then there's this next level of things that needs to happen. I don't know. There's a lot of thinking that needs to go into it, but my biggest goal is to make sure that you knew what was here and kind of know, I've done a lot of modifications, right? Some kind of dirty looks from the folks at Cisco because I didn't follow exactly what was put there. So, and now it's like, well, I'm glad I did, because otherwise I'd be kind of stuck. So I don't know. I don't want to push it any further. I just want to make sure that, it's there. I've been working on things. I'm more than happy to share, especially with the folks that have taken my classes and things like that. And then, if that can be turned into a revenue stream at a later date, then great. And if not, that's fine. I'm a serial entrepreneur, so it's always in the back of my mind. So don't get me wrong. But that's not my number one goal at this point. I'm not going to do this because there's a monetary value at the end of it. But at the same time, if I'm going to put together all of that, it'd be nice to be able to recover some of that or make that part of my revenue stream as well. So cool. Because teaching this class is a revenue stream for me. Going to the working connections in the summer and doing workshops is a revenue stream for me. Yeah. So is reselling on eBay. like you pick it. There's all kinds of things going on in the background. Okay. Are there any other questions specifically about the Connecting Things course, right? I just, reminder, it's good until the end of July of next year. I already do have a shell in Brightspace where I've modified how this functions. I've replaced labs. I'm still using some of the Cisco labs. I am using all of the Cisco content as far as like just getting I want to quote academic understanding of IoT. And I think there's other resources out there that can be used for that purposes as well. And I'm more than happy to share any of those things, right? So if there's labs that you're interested in, or what did you do with this instead of that, please email me. I know my email responses are spotty. Sometimes it's like right away, and sometimes it's a week or two. It all depends on what's going on. But email me. If you don't email me, I can't answer. If you email me, I will work to get you an answer. Okay. I don't want to, and we'll talk about the security class tomorrow, and we'll talk about the big data class on the next day. Just I wanted to go through these so that you were aware of them. If you haven't already taken the class or even using the material, but talking about what I use and what I don't use in my courses. Okay. Awesome. Cool. So this is from Mike. Ooh, do we need to register for that one? We'll do that one later then. I'm going to save this and then let's put it in. So this will be under the tutorial section. Yeah, I like that. Like I said, you'll have a month's worth of websites to go through when we're finished here today or this week. All right, so the next thing, let's take a look at this. All right, so we're going to be using the same Raspberry Pi that we set up AdGuard. So AdGuard is working, right? So when I refreshed it earlier, it kept the Amazon. So it blocked Amazon, but I've undone that at this point and it worked right away. So that was nice. So Amazon works now. So now I can go buy more Raspberry Pi stuff. Awesome. That's always good. And then for the afternoon, I want to, so this isn't, I don't know if you've never heard of initial state, right? So initial state, like here's a build a Raspberry Pi refrigerator, freezer monitor. And what they provide us with is these dashboards, right? So they provide us with a web-based dashboard, right? And I think, kind of going back to an earlier question that Katie brought up is I think there's probably a way for you to build these, right? Using, common web tools and have them build on your own, right? And for our purposes, for educational purposes, you don't have to pay to do the project that we're going to do, and obviously if you're a commercial, right, they're going to want to charge you to use their system, right? So it's a cloud-based solution, just like any other cloud-based solution. So, but there's lots of really cool, neat projects here. Crawl space humidity monitor, right? So for those that have crawl spaces and live in humid places, that'd be a good thing. My parents have a crawl space, but we live in, humidity at, 15% it's a really high humid day. So maybe they would need one because if it got water down there, then, if it's humid down there, then they have a really big problem. As far as, busted pipe or something, but anyways, these are a lot of really cool projects that you can do on the Raspberry Pi, and I really, we've used a couple in my class. The biggest one we do is this health dashboard here. We're going to make an attempt today at this one. To monitor your Pi processes an IP address. So the hope here is when we get finished, we'll have a dashboard that we can get that will show us processes running and IP addresses, if they're live or not live, and then even have responses out to our phones and our email from this device. I have not done this project. And I'm hoping that, I'm hoping that, that we don't have to have something else. I'm thinking, my thought was when I chose to do this, when I was looking at them last night, was that, we're going to run, we're running a service, right? The AdGuard service on this device. Wouldn't it be nice for us to monitor that? And it kind of ties into being a system admin type of a project. Okay. And then what just came to mind is right, I'm thinking from where my perspective, a sysadmin kind of role, but I know we have several folks that are high school, right? So for those that are teaching at that high school level, and the ones we've been talking about, having to get around the networking and things like that, is there, you can put in the chat or you can send me an email, but is there a project or a concept that you would like to see, right? That's so I can make sure that maybe we get that wrapped in here somewhere, something that, kind of, I don't want to say cookie cutter, but it's kind of put together that you could then take and just right to the classroom with. And just maybe give me an idea what you kind of think, right? And you can do that in the chat, or you can do that, like I said, via email. Because right now, and I think the web ones, the two web projects, right? The WordPress project and then the Django project. I think both of those would probably work in that type of environment, right? Because you're just going to build a web server on your Raspberry Pi and then connect to it remotely, locally. Only problem with that is that if you need software, you're going to have to be on the internet. I think that always becomes the issue. Okay. Anyways, so let's take a look at this. I keep wanting to say assignment, right? But it's just a project. We're hanging out. Nothing's due. You don't have to turn anything in. There's no deadlines, so it's okay. So we're going to create a web-based dashboard that monitors the status of multiple processes and IP addresses of each device. Configure your Pi to launch the dedicated process and its monitor on boot, which I think is also a neat part of this, right? So learning how to launch things on boot, right, and getting things set up. That allows for quicker recovery of your systems. And then create an email SMS notification when the process exits. All right, so we are going to have to set up an account on Initial State. All right, so register an Initial State account. So we're going to click out to that. And I'm not going to sign in with an existing one. Give me a second. Look at my. Okay, where did it go? Okay, so all right, so we'll just use that one. No, we're gonna recreate. I'm just creating a new one. Write that down because it's not a normal one that I use. All right. So your account, quick actions, individual plan, not going to change, we're not going to do any of that kind of stuff. Okay. We're not going to do two-step authentication at the moment, allow app use data. We're not going to do that either. Okay, I think we're okay. Maybe. Individual plan, enterprise plan. No, I don't want that. When did they change this? Oh, I wonder. Okay, you got to use your .edu account. So yeah, no, we don't want this at all. Don't use that account. So first issue, you need to use a. So then if you are at a place that doesn't have a .edu, this may not work again. I really don't, you don't need to be buying licenses. I'm gonna go ahead and do the project. If you're not able to do this with us, I apologize. I just gotta remember what my password was. I need hints. All right, so if you have a .edu account, for those that have .edu accounts, yeah, student plan. That way then we're not, there's no payment, right? That's, and we don't have to do any of that kind of stuff. So if you don't have one, I apologize. And maybe, obviously this is not a direction that you're gonna wanna head with this, but I want to do this exercise so that you can kind of see that from that system admin perspective, this idea of creating a dashboard. I'm trying to think. I'm gonna write down, there's another, I don't know if they charge, there's another service at one point called Cayenne. But then if somebody maybe can look up like Raspberry Pi dashboards, web dashboards, something along those lines. A little closer. So I think we're okay there. So we'll go back to home. I think we can just go up to that little. Yeah. Okay, so streamed events. I don't have anything. I think this is the performance one. Yeah, so this is a previous assignment. I don't want to open it. I want to go to settings and remove. All right, cool. Okay, so I've got that account, and then the other thing that this silly little lab just did was it removed it didn't open a new window when it went to go do this, they sign it. So let's go back to, here we go. So we're at this monitor your Pi, and we just did step one, set up the account. Initial state Python module, we need to install the initial state Python module, right? And then at the command prompts, so we're going to SSH into our Pi, and we're going to run these couple of commands. Okay, so let's now bring that up and this up. So instructions on the left and my add guard on the right. Okay. So all of these assignments, right? So you start to get, so they can copy and paste these things the way these things are built. right? But these are all kind of common, you know, moving around the disk tasks. So the more of these things that they do, the better off they're going to be. And just kind of that practice. So initial state.com/Python -o --space. We're going to pipe that to sudo bash. So we're going to run this command. And okay, I think that's going to do it. Initial state. I'm making sure I got everything typed right. Get.initial state HTTPS /Python. Okay, let's give it a whirl. All right, so this is going to do, this is pulling all that information down. So if you get a pip error, right, the next kind of components there allow you to running the following commands that'll basically get you to install the newer version of pip. And you can see the running, right? So it found pip right here, pip major version 20, minor version 3, and then it couldn't find the streamer. And so it installed the streamer. And then it found the streamer. Do you want to automatically enable example script? And I believe if you were to read down a little bit further, right, gets all the way to the bottom, you want to do yes, right? So we want to set up a script that's automatic. So we're going to hit Y. When prompted, type Y. This will create a test script. I'm looking at right here where my mouse is. That will that we can run to ensure that we can stream the data. So this is just going to test that we are able to connect to and send data to initial state. Okay. I think it's fine to leave it in the. I'm going to leave it in the default path. So just an enter, and then you need to type custom local path. You will be prompted for a username and password. So at the new one, I think we're going to use the new. It doesn't tell us this part here, right? So it's not telling us this part. I'm assuming, right, since we're going to do the number 2 there. We want to prompt a username, so it's not. We're not. This skips over that piece. So this lab, like right here, this is a new piece. Let's do number 2. Let's do 2, the IoT.app.initial state. Let's hope this works. I wonder if it's not in the instruction, it probably means it's doing it the old way. What do you think of that? Let's create test script. 2 seems to work. Cool. I like it when students get ahead.
You can go back and you look at the URL of when you logged in, and that's the IoT.app.interstitial state. That's what it is.
Oh,
That's how
great.
you
Well,
can
then we'll go with number 2. Good. Username. So that would be here, right? IoT app. Yeah, right there. Cool. Like I said, I'm glad I have extra brains today. All right, so got the example script, and we're all done. And then we want to run. So take a look at the example script. So nano is underscore example dot py. So we're just going to take a look. We're not going to do anything, I don't think, to this. Maybe. On line 15, you'll see the line that says streamer. Streamer, you should put Python stream example, bucket key. Okay. Permanent same lines associated with the access key token on this. So the access key token is going to be off the side of the screen. We'll go ahead and leave that off this video. Okay. Oh, do I need to copy that in? This association happens to be the access key parameter. Once there's a letters and numbers, this is your initial state account. If you go to your initial state account in the web browser, click on the my accounts, stream key. You'll see that. So they should match, right? Every time you create a data stream, you access to will directly that data stream to the account. Okay. So to run the example, just Python is example. And then I think when we run the example, I'm going to want to have this available, right? So I want to have that. I'm going to have this page up. So, okay, so on here, we just want to Control X for exit. And then we're going to Python is underscore example dot py. I don't want to run that until I've got this over here. So on this side, I'm going to enter. So it looks like the example ran here. What I'm hoping to find. Yeah, you got to run it for it to show up in the dashboard, right? And then once you've got it there, though, it's going to only show you the end result. I don't think it shows you the. We're waiting for it to show up. My screen is all wacky. So there's the Python example stream. So this is the end results of that. Okay, so it just ran it, did the little counts and populated this. Right. And so if you go look through the actual code that we have over here, when we did the nano, it would show you all these things. And this is good. We don't need to know anything. We don't need to do anything with this. This is just showing us that our connection to initial state is functioning, okay, which is awesome. Python stream example is there. So now that we have that, we can now work on getting the services to kind of populate. So we're going to create another dashboard, okay? So we've gotten to step 5, right? Run the example. 6, go back to initial state, new bucket called Python stream example, show up in the left log, click on the bucket, you see, right? So mine is not mine is this one, right? Right. Excellent. Ready to stream real data from the Pi to this. So that was just the setup of the connection between the Raspberry Pi and the initial state. Okay, so now part 2, we want to start.
I'm sorry, did you create a key?
My account has a key.
Was there? You don't put the key in the file. I'm looking at step 4, active keys.
Okay, so on step 4, yeah, let's go back. My understanding when I was reading through that, step 4 is like it's already there, right? So when it created this magically, and I gave it my username and password, it took my key and put it in the code automatically.
Okay.
Was my understanding of this.
Okay.
And this is just, I think, what they're having you do here, right? You will find the same access key. So if you did, let me go over here. So if you go to here and if I go to this line, right, and I go all the way out, my access key is going to be out there somewhere. All right, so there's my access key. And if I were to go to my account, then that same access key should be there. And that's all they were trying to tell us, is that because when I logged in, it took my access key and inputted it into this code. That was part of that magically, right? Where we're going to do the example scripts right here. Do you want to do this? Yes, here's the script, log in, and then as part of that, it pulled that script down and inserted my key into the right place for that purpose. Yes, no?
Yeah, no, it's fine. My Python just, it didn't show up this time. It's shown up before, but today it didn't.
Hmm.
Odd. All right.
That is odd.
Yeah, it didn't show up for me either.
On the, so on your, so you had to input it in?
Yeah, I just did the same thing you did. I did the
The automatically and logged in and. pick
right.
number
It asks
two.
you to enter your username, your email, and password,
Mm-hmm,
and then I run the nano. You know,
mm-hmm.
is an example.py, and then I did the Python is an underscore example.py, and there's nothing happened after that.
Nothing happened. So this didn't populate eventually. This right here.
Yeah, this one didn't show up.
And then on line 15, if you go out to line 15, if you nano the is underscore example, does line 15 have the access token at the end?
Line 15.
Mine did. Mine had it.
I'm stuck with permission denied when I try and pull the example. So I'm trying again, but we'll see.
So when you're trying to do this installation up here, the get,
Well, no, I can do all that. It's,
Okay.
hang on, I'll tell you.
okay.
After I pick the initial state app, and then I put in my user email. Okay, I'm gonna do that. Maybe I'm doing that wrong. Whoops, I gotta look at my new password here. Okay, oh, it says permission denied, is example.py permission denied. It doesn't tell me I need to re-enter anything. It says it's getting the script and then it tells me I can't.
So when you get to the login, then right after the login, it tells you
Yeah,
permission
yeah,
denied. It
yeah.
sounds like,
Network, I'm at school.
well, I'm not,
It could be firewall settings, huh?
I don't, it could be that, or it could, I mean, my first thought was there's something being typed in correctly on the password. That would be my first thing. right?
Well,
Some-
but I would think the same thing, but it tells me it's getting the example.
Oh, it says getting the example, then it says
Yeah.
permission denied.
Yep,
Wow.
not weird. But also I couldn't, it didn't have the directory home /pi. It just goes to home. That could be part of my problem too.
Oh, okay. So here's, yes. Did you, what's your username?
Holland at Raspberry Pi. Oh, you mean in the
On the Pi itself?
Holland?
Did you leave it at Pi or did you change the username?
I changed it.
So it's home / whatever you change your username to. This is another thing that's gonna break all of these labs, right? So the CD, I'm glad we're running into these things here. Right here, CD / home / pi. Mine works because I left the user as pi. Okay, if you
Mine
change the
too.
user to Carrie or right, Heidi or Tim or Marcelo, or you change the username to whatever, it needs to be / home / username, right? Whatever your username is, that goes there, and then run all the rest of this stuff.
Okay, let me see.
I would go back to that point. I would CD home to that, and then I would rerun the curl, rerun the installation, because it's going to put it in your home directory. And if you're not in your home directory, you won't have permissions.
Well, I went home. I'm at home, but
That home and home pi are two different directories. Like this is a directory underneath home.
okay.
And,
So
and you as the user have full permissions in your directory, but you do not have full permissions at the home directory.
I forget the command for reading my home directory.
LS.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Different things. Oh, it is Holland. Okay.
Yeah, so then you're gonna want to CD into that directory and then go back and run the curl script and all that kind of stuff. So if anybody, so that's another thing. If you didn't use the Pi default user.
It's telling me it can't, oh, I know why, because my name dumb. Okay, hang on. Yay, I did it.
Yeah, so this is actually really good because this is something that you're gonna run into in your class. So
Okay, I'm gonna do this now, the curl.
when you have your students setting up their Raspberry Pis, okay? I think it's probably a good place when they're, when they're doing the installation is to talk about the username, right? Because, with this new release of the OS in early April, they eliminated the default user, okay? But you can set up a default user if you want to, right? So it starts out as blank, and then you can set up a user, and you can choose to use, like, traditionally you would choose to use, something other than a default, so my name, Carrie, or Bruce, or whatever. The problem with that in the classroom is all instructions up to that point. So for the last 10 years of instructions, everything is cd/home/pi, right? Because Pi was the default user. And in all of our classes, we've never told students, I have never told students to change that, to add another user. We always left the default user for simplicity purposes, not for cyber purposes, not for proper, right, system admin, permissions and all that kind of fun stuff, but for simplicity purposes. So at this point going forward, the conversation is if you change the username, right, if you do something other than Pi, which actually is highly recommended, then you need to remember every single instruction that has you go to a directory, home Pi, needs to be home your username.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
So
we
it's
have
really
victory.
important.
We have victory. I'm looking at the file now.
Good.
I went
So,
from sad to happy.
there you go. But that's a good, yeah, so I like running into these issues here, right? Because then we can talk about them and you can see those. And that is something that did change with this home Pi only works if you have Pi as the user, right? If the user was Carrie, I would have had to change it to Carrie or whatever.
Mhm.
Okay. Cool. So good. I love it. All right. So we're on part 2, monitoring. So there was one other individual, I can't remember. That was like this didn't show up. Did everybody get this to show up? Python stream example that's working through this process with us.
I'm refreshing to see.
It'll take a while. It's all on mine like a couple minutes.
Because I have 47 streamed events now. That's crazy.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, actually mine, everything works except the Python part didn't show up, right?
So, but you have this on your initial state?
I don't have that
Yes.
yet.
Python stream? Yeah, it'll show, if you have 47 here, this will show up here eventually. It takes a while to refresh properly.
Okay.
You can close that down, reopen it. There's a way to, you can refresh the screen here. And eventually this piece will pop in, especially if you have, right? If you have this right here, streamed this month, you have 47.
Yeah.
Then
This will open automatically, right? I don't have to go to a browser or do anything, right?
this initial state is where you logged in and created initial state. And then this little, they got the little 3, they call it a shelf, right? So the shelf here, when you open that up, you should see the examples in there. So the refresh usually would fix it, right? So the refresh will kind of force everything to.
Woohoo.
Nice.
Except for, yeah, mine says stream done, pop true.
Yep. And if you have 47 events here, then you are connecting, right? You did stream because it's 47 events to get this picture. Right?
That's amazing.
Right. Well, we're not even close to being amazing yet. This is pretty cool. It's good stuff, but it's not. We got some more stuff to do here. All right, so monitor a process. So let's take a look at this. This is the part I haven't done yet. So let's see how it goes. Right. So, so on our Raspberry Pi, right? So back to the SSH session, I'm going to do PS, right? Which is a command that's going to give us the processes, right? So we can see bash and PS.
Uh-huh.
And they've got process IDs over here. That's, you know, and this is real similar to that. The process IDs are going to be on a per computer basis. They don't need to be anywhere near each other. And then there's a second command here, right? We want to find everything running. So this is processes that I am running, right? I ran PS, right? Because I typed in the command PS, and I'm running bash, which is, this is me. Okay, to see everything that's running, it's going to be PS -ef space pipe. And then we're going to grep that to pi. And it's going to show us a bunch of other things. So we've got right here, what do we got? This is a whatever trigger happy is.
I know.
Oh, and this is only looking for things that are pi. Like this is only
Yeah.
things that are pi.
Yeah.
I wonder, is our, like, what, how do we find, how are we gonna, I guess if we do it without pi on it, right? That's gonna show us, oh, we need to have some kind of thing.
We could do
Oh, add
a
AD.
wild card. Isn't there a wild card? Oh,
So I'm looking for us. My hope here was to find
whoa.
the add guard, right? But I don't even know what.
Crash pad. I've got crash pad.
All right, so for those that are Linux inclined, like what I'm trying to find is the add guard. Right, or it's actually a web server, right? I'm trying to figure out what they would.
Try block. No. Guard.
So look up add guard home, maybe. Oh, there you go.
What'd you put in?
So we put in add guard home. Thanks, Gary. Let's go with what the program is called. I would have thought though that AD would have given us that, right? But it didn't. That's weird. So it looks like this is my PID, right? Is the 1139 my PID? Okay. So yeah, so I think this, right? So this is the process ID that I'm looking for, right? Yeah, I think so. And correct me if I'm wrong, right? Because again, I know enough Linux to be dangerous, and I think what I'm looking at is the Pi user, right? With this process ID is running this program. And I think that's what we're trying to track down, right? Because over here, they ran this and it says root is running 2287, which is this weather station that they're looking for, right? So the PID number that we need is this first number. Ah. Thank you. Oops, I didn't want to do that either. So capitalize the A, capitalize the G, capitalize the H. That's the first one, and that gives me a different process ID. That's the root. Cool. That's the one we need. Oh, man, I love having extra brains. 10733. Right, so I think this is the number we're looking for. So what we're going to do that for this command that it gives you here in part 2, right at the beginning, the ps-ef grep, for instead of pi, you're going to add in the word add guard home, capital A, capital G, capital H. And we're looking for the process that's running under root. In my case, it's 1000, it's 10,733. 10,733 is the number. All right. So in the example above, right, so that's the script. So in our case, I've highlighted my number. Once we know this process ID we want to monitor, we can pass this number into the parameter into a simple Python script. So I'm going to write down 1007, I'm sorry, 10,733. Right, and we'll monitor the existence of the process and send either a running or exited response to our dashboard. Okay, so then we will use the Python script located here. Before we can use this script, we need to set up our user settings at the top of the file. So what we're going to do then is we're going to grab this. Actually, yeah, because we need to do now what I'm wondering if I'll be able to copy this and put it into Nano so I can edit it on this computer over here. Because this is not going to do us any good on this side. So right, this side here on the left is my PC. On the right is my Raspberry Pi. And what I'm going to do then, let's do oops. What do we monitor underscore process? And I'm assuming if I go, I'm going to go back here, right? Before we need to make some changes. That's fine. We'll make those changes in a minute. But and then you run the script. Okay, so then and I'm assuming then we're gonna put it in the current directory. It doesn't say that at all here, but I'm gonna put it in the current directory. Okay, so I'm gonna create a file, monitor underscore process .py, which is this file. I'm gonna create that on my Raspberry Pi on the right-hand side. So I have a blank process there. So then what I'm hoping to be able to do, and I have no idea if this is going to copy over or not. I'm thinking it's not going to copy over. Oh, but it did. But it did. All right. So I just right mouse click, copy, Control V, paste. And I've got this process over here, or this script over here in Nano, and I'm going to go to the bottom and make sure, right? So got everything, yeah, so everything looks like it's supposed to look. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to the instructions, and then we're going to have to make some changes. The bucket key, specify the data bucket our script will stream into. Make sure you use the same bucket key for each script that you should send data into the same dashboard. But it didn't tell us what to do for that. So did I miss something? Or are we just going to use bucket key? We're good, just leave that there. Okay, good. Place your access key here. Okay, I can do that. Place the name of your process here. All right, but these other two, this PR 1208, we're just going to leave. Okay, cool. So then I need to go back to initial state, go back to my account, and no, is it where I go? Settings. Okay, they use PR 1208 for process 1208. I'm gonna have to change my keys after this because we're recording all of this. I'm gonna post this online. That's awesome. So I'm going to take out, pull that, and we're going to do Control V. Did that not work? Okay, thank you. Me and copy and pasting. By the time I fight it. IST underscore RTH 6 EC BDT KKW RJ G07. Okay, I'm assuming a little O E J4. Y P T H T M E 0 or M E O and then capital O A S. All right, so IST RTH 6 EC BVT KK WRJ G 07 little o capital EJ 4YP THT MEO OAS. Okay.
And I believe on Windows Command Prompt, if you click on the top left, which I'm assuming you have a menu button on the top left of the window, and then you can click Edit, and there's a paste button right there. I don't know why it wasn't working. I think it just was passing it through.
Okay, awesome. Appreciate that. The name of our process, AD, let's go down. We call it add guard. Home. Then I think, like you said, I think this can be pretty much anything. The bucket key could be whatever we want it to be. I think we'll just leave it as that for now. Cool. All right. So then,
and since we're on the subject of not being able to sometimes use Control V for paste, there is a new Windows terminal for the later versions of Windows 10 and 11. And if you don't have it on your machine and you have access to the Windows Store, you can actually install the Windows terminal from the Windows Store. And it works a lot better for connecting to any kind of Linux type operating system.
okay.
A lot better than the trusty old command.
Yeah. All right. So Windows terminal from the Windows Store. We'll add that when we're done here. Okay. So I think let's go back to this monitoring process. We already need to change the bucket key. Bucket key specifies data. So I don't think it matters. We talked about that. Access key, process name. We've done those two things, right? So those two should be fine. So then at that point, we want to write this out. So Control O. Let me click over here and Control O.
I just wonder, we need the code, right? We need to open code and close the code for both the access key and the process name, right?
Yes, because it's handing over a string.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
So Control O will write it out and Control X exits out of the nano. And then we're going to run Python monitor underscore process dot py and the process number 10733 for me. You guys have a different process number. It's going to be based on right here, this grep or this response here, the PS response. So that should run that program monitoring that particular process. Nice.
Okay, one thing I noticed is the
All the parentheses are missing.
using Python 2,
Yeah.
and your system is set up for Python 3. And so I have an older Raspberry Pi. Mine defaults with Python 2. So
Okay.
if somebody got no, I'm sorry. Let me back up. Yeah, okay. I'm looking back through my terminal here. Okay, so what was the error I got? If you got a traceback and it says import PS util, no module named PS util, you can do I'll type it out in the chat in a moment, the command you can type to install the PS util module, and it will work. But yeah, right now it looks like you're using Python 3. And so you would actually have to install Python version 2 to make this script work.
Nice. That's awesome. And these are that's the pip command, Python setup tools. That's different, right? Those two commands are different than what you're talking about. Okay. So I can install Python -ps util.
Okay, so yeah, that's if you have the older Raspberry Pi with
This is the one we installed yesterday.
yeah, which I was a little day behind, and I'm using a Raspberry Pi I bought like 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
So I'm thinking because
Yeah. So now that causes all kinds of issues, right? Because everybody else having the same deal right here, where when you try to run this
Probably.
process.
I could probably help you get Python version 2 installed. Let me see. App search Python. You get a ton of results, but scroll up.
Can you just we're going to sudo apt install Python 2?
That might be the correct package name. Scrolling up through all these Python results.
Right. Oh,
There's a lot.
this Python 2 without the.
Is it Python 2? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, try
So
typing.
Python 2 is already the newest version. So can I run
Try
this
typing
with just Python 2?
If that doesn't work, I can probably, okay. Yeah,
No
there you
module named PS
There you
util.
go. So now you can do that sudo apt install, and it's Python -ps util.
Oh, Python -ps util.
And that's going to give it's not available, but it's, oh. That's interesting.
If we did it just PS util.
So
Okay.
it could be that that package has been deprecated.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah, no.
I'm on, I think Buster. Let's see. OSB release. I am on, yeah, my Raspberry Pi is still on Buster, which is the legacy, I guess you could say.
Oh, here we go.
And so in my packages, I have that Python PSUtil, but it may be that
Interesting. Oh, it's my Python 3 is already done that way.
is there a pip for Python 2? Do you know?
So pip should be Python 2. Like there's a pip 3.
Try typing pip 2, install PSUtil. Oh, that's weird.
We'll get it figured out.
I have a pip 2 and a pip 3.
There you go.
Let me see if that's on.
Install pip install PSUtil for Linux, Windows, Mac. Yeah, it should just be. It says so. It's only trying to do it for 3.
Hmm. Okay, see if you have the package python-pip installed. I think that's the Python 2. So apt search python-pip. This isn't, no, it's not. Okay. But you don't have it available either. Darn. Pip Wheels. I don't know what Pip Wheels is. I'm not a Python guy. I don't know. That's about the extent of my knowledge.
Boom, right to the end. Like, okay. So this one, so yeah, at this point, we have,
I can tell you what's wrong, but I don't know how to fix it.
yeah, so it's Python. Yeah, we got, yeah, Python 2 code trying to run with Python 3.
Yeah.
And then when we run it,
Run it with Python 2, you don't have a Python 2 module you need.
we're missing the PSUtil module.
Yeah.
That we need for
A
this.
little bit of Googling might be able to find an answer.
Right, so Python 2.
Python 2.
We'll work through this one and see what we can find. Command. Yeah, so pip install PSUtil. That's what they always say. Previous command may not work if you have both version 2 and version 3 on your computer.
How to install this?
Previous command, so pip 3 install. Oops, that's not what I wanted to go to.
Install fill.
Then there's a Python-m pip install util. Let's try that one and see if that this one it's not going to hurt because nothing's working anyway. So pip install PSUtil. It's still just happy that the 3 is there and working. Yeah, so every
Okay.
yeah, no love. Sudo. Do we? So I'm wondering, is there like a version of PS utils that we can force it to do a version? I don't see that happening. So this is so one of what we've run into with this one, which is unfortunate, but it's going to happen. And that's why testing these out before you do it live, right? It's probably a smart thing. This is code that's written in Python 2, right? And the Raspberry, the installation we have, has Python 3. And then what we're able to get Python 2 installed. That's fairly straightforward, but it's this PS utils. When we try to run PS utils, it sees that Python 3 has it. So it's like, I have it, I don't need to worry about it. So it's not installing the version that would, if there was a version that worked, it's not installing the version that works with Python 2. And we already tried the sudo, the Python util too, right? The sudo apps update. Wonder. Referred to another, that is referred to by another package. Only that package is missing. That's been obsoleted or is only available from another source. Love it.
It could be that maybe the person that maintains PS util, maybe he's not.
Maintaining PS utils.
It may have been removed from the package stores on the latest Debian and Raspberry.
It seems like it has been, like, because it's
Python 2 end of life was January 1st, 2020.
yeah. So I mean, it's
so
and I think that's the problem. Like this example is written in. Right. So, but I wonder. So if we run the code, right?
So I was able to get it to work, but again, I'm a version behind you. So.
So if I run that, it gives me, oh, no module PS2. So
That's the only thing. If I think there's a way to get it and build it, but
yeah, no, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen today. Well beyond the scope of what we're trying to do today.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's crud. Crud. So Mike, you saying you're getting a new processes window? Like you're getting another?
Yeah, it's working for me. That was the last step, is just getting that PS util, and it works from there.
All right. And then so then let's go and where's the sudo nano? Look at all these commands we ran to try to fix that. There we go. So import PS util, and then print usage streamer PS util right here. Oh, so it is something we really need to have. Like it's what's monitoring our.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the process utility.
Why?
I'm looking to see if I can find anything from initial state on that exact problem.
Right. I wonder. Like, let's wonder if the other thing is.
It's on GitHub, but it's let's see. This is power process dashboard, right? Power process dashboard. Nobody's ever found any issues.
So this is the actual, like, this is the this is it right here. So jump to, but nobody, yeah, there's nothing.
Yeah, and I looked at their issues. Nobody's ever found any. But there that forks. Somebody forked it and
Correct. All right. So I think we may have run into an issue that we're not gonna solve in our time frame. And that would be, and this is where we got to be now that's right. The Python 2's been end of life, and examples for things upwards, that are if these examples are, I don't know, January 2017, right? So we're working on a 5-year-old example.
This might be a good thing for later in the week. Modify, because it's such a small script.
Yeah, it's like
problem to rewrite this in Python 3, I would think.
right, and then run it in Python 3. Just get it written for Python 3, and so. But what's interesting is that, well, I guess it just runs in. So yeah, so I'm wondering, because if we do, so if I control exit out of this and we run this as, instead of Python 2, I run it just Python, right? Which we can see Python 3, just force it in Python 3. Now it's a matter of, we need parentheses on the print statements. It's not telling me that I have a problem with PSUtil, right?
Yeah,
So
I think all the modules are there. We just need to.
So I'm just wondering, like print, right? We just need to put a parenthesis there, right?
Carrie, I added parentheses and a
Uh-huh.
whole bunch of different errors came up.
Oh, you got more errors now?
Yeah.
Awesome. So that's what I was hoping. Like, maybe I just, if I put the parentheses in, we can like right there. Like, that's what it's telling me to do, right?
Yeah,
So
me too.
It breaks there, right? So
Yeah, they say that the object, the JSON is not specified or something like that.
okay,
It's
so
not,
then
yeah.
so
At
we
the
have,
end is type error. We got
we have
type error as object error.
all right. So we have a couple of things here. We can, like, I think first of all, the print statements, I think, are easy to fix, right? I'm hoping, right? That's all we really need to do is put the parentheses on the print statements. So there's those two print statements, and
Need
then
the space. I think print space, print and space, and start the parenthesis. The print should change to light blue color.
got it. Thank you, sir.
Yo, yo.
All right. So then, there's no other print statements that we know of. Okay. So Control O. Enter Control X, and then run and see what the next problem is. Okay, what is the next problem? Oh my gosh. Object type bytes, not JSON serialized. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. So streamer failed to ship after a number of attempts. I see streamer equals post. So this is the initial problem, and then it caused a cascade of problems. So streamer didn't. So it's, right, so right here is this column, the streamer, right? From ISS streamer, import streamer, here's streamer, streamer equals streamer bucket. So there's something there or here that's causing us issues now, right? I didn't see a line. So that there's a streamer line, streamer line, streamer line. I'm wondering, so bucket name, that should be, we did that up here, right? Bucket name. So we're handing it bucket name, bucket key, and then access key equals access key. We don't have the process name. Oh, the process name is down below. And then if we were to look at the control X, I'm not going to save anything. I want to look at the, is example? Isn't that the first one, IS example? No, it wasn't. Yeah, is example. Oh, is process. I don't want its process. So streamer log. So streamer equals streamer bucket name. And we gave the bucket name, bucket key. We've got the same import streamer to streamer, import streamer, streamer bucket name equals whatever, bucket name equals whatever, key equals whatever. And then down here, streamer log. My message is stream starting. I'm just trying to see what's different between, right? So streamer bucket name, bucket key equals bucket key. So we're giving it these, handing over those pieces. So those are fine. That's not throwing error. And log running streamer flush. Which, can we figure out which line is giving us the problem? So object of type bytes is not JSON serializable. All right, so it looks like and that's the same initial error too, right? So JSON serializable. So we're handing it some kind of somewhere where we're doing that. Failed the ship after a number of attempts. Turns back. So it says these are all streamer related, but it's not pointing to the place in the code. I don't see it, at least. It seems like the data is not being formatted properly. To send over. Okay. I think we will spend the rest of the evening trying to solve this one. Oh,
I don't think our program got 179 though, right? This is a short program. And then the error is pointing out we got at the 139s.
yeah, and
170s.
it's pointing to the error here, like when it's in this library. The error is happening in the library, but it's like it has to do with something
Oh, we call up on maybe.
that
Okay.
we handed over. Like we handed over some kind of data improperly, and then when it got there in the stream to send the stream, it freaked out on us. So I don't know. I don't know where that would be. I guess we've got there's outputs and stuff down here.
I'm researching it, and it looks like and this is, again, I'm not a Python programmer, but I know with serialization over, internet transmissions, it's often advisable to do JSON serialization, right? JavaScript object notation. And I'm getting the impression that with Python 3, or maybe the latest version of one of these modules, it expects JSON data, and we're trying to send raw bytes. And so I'm looking at a couple of blog posts and tutorials about how to encode text strings as JSON. But honestly, like you originally said, this may be beyond the scope of this session.
Right. And this is where, like, this would be I liked the idea of this lab, right? Because it took something that we've already done and we add on, like, if this works, right, then it's a great lesson as a sysadmin to have a dashboard that's monitoring services. I think that makes a whole lot of sense. However, right, obviously we've run into Python 2.3 issues. Like, this is where you'd want to practice this ahead of time, and then you would run into this and go, okay, maybe this isn't the way we should do this. Or like you're doing now, like, you fight through the process so that when you're ready to do it as a project, then you have code that actually functions. Now, but doing this live as part of a workshop, I don't think we should dive into I think we've already spent about half an hour on this one, trying to troubleshoot this and get everybody to the same level. I think everybody's at the same level of stuck at this point. And I don't know that that it would make us, that it would be profitable, right? It's been, or it would be a good use of our time today, right? Trying to work through that, especially at the end of the day. I really don't want to end the day on a negative. I don't want to end the day on, okay, I give up. That's just a bad way to end the day. And we still have 56 minutes to recover. So I'm wondering. So I'm curious. I'm going to go back over here because what I'm looking at is how is this system dashboard different? Because I know this last semester, this worked perfectly fine. But look, PS util is part of the system. I'm curious. Right? Install the CIS streamer. So these are all the tools that we've done already. We've done the automagically, right? Run the example. We get right. So that's good. PS util. Sudo pip, so this one installs it, right? But I think we've tried that exact command which means now this lab isn't going to work for my regular class either. Right? Right? So, and it uses the same, oh, it uses a Pi Health. This uses a different script, Pi Health script. So future division import PSUtil. We're not getting a PSUtil issue any longer, right? And we've got a similar thing here, and then we're getting temperature output, right? Streamer. So here's the streamer. So if the temperature's true, like here's a little bit of format things going on. I don't know if that's going to help us. Log objects, like that's different. So there may be some formatting thing, right? Like look at this, format mem available, right? String, memory available. Is that even in this other thing that we're doing over here? So streamer.log, so memory used, right? So output, so if I'm on this streamer log right here, like, yeah, see, they're not. On the left, you know, lines 50 through 60, right? Streamer log, memory total, I'm formatting, right? I've got memory available, I've got string, you know, kind of notations in there. And over here I have process name plus IP address. Literally. So that's probably what's going on. I mean, it sounds like I think we're kind of getting to that point where that's the issue. Like we are not giving it, like these are like string, like it's, and the format's just handing over the information. And over here, we're just like, looks like we're just adding the information. We're not giving it, we're not inputting that information into this string that we've created. So I think that's probably, yeah, like I think you're probably in the right space there. But how to actually, what we want this to look like is going to be the problem. Network bytes received, and see that, like, so this is using PSUtil to pull all this data off of the machine, right? So then let's switch gears then. So this one here, I'm going to control X this. We have already automatically done, so it's on your computer, let's go back to,
Look like that string says IP address might be a problem. If you look at where it says plus IP address, and if that's not right, then they'll throw an error as well.
right. And so I really think that's kind of what's happening there. So I'm curious, let me drop this into the chat. So this is the dashboard. So we're already connected to initial state. We're already there, right? This is I've done this as we've done this as a workshop as part of WOTC. I've done this in my classes. This is still using initial state. So I think I want to try this one because we've already done like the first couple steps. And what it's going to do is, instead of monitoring the service that's running on the computer, it's going to monitor like all of the heats and the networking and things like that on the computer. And I want to see if it works, because I really think if it works, then I think we're now down to, right, and I think we were on the right track. You know, Gary was on the right track. I think it's a formatting thing, right? It's a formatting thing on how the data is being presented to the streamer. And then it's not in a format, that JSON format that it's wanting, and it freaks out on us. So I'd like to try, this one is usually pretty quick, right? This one, so I've given you the link. If you click on the link, you'll get to this page here. I'm gonna click to part 1. I've got my computer still on the right-hand side. We're good there. We have already installed, right? So we've already installed the ISS streamer. We've already done the AutoMagic. We've already connected with the access keys, right? We've already run that example. Everybody should have at this point this little Python stream example on their initial state dashboard. Okay. What I want to see is I want to run this, and if it works, then I think fixing the monitoring is a matter of us understanding how the formatting works for what we're going to hand to the streamer, and that becomes a much. I think we have some examples that we can work off, and we can try to figure that out. So psutil, right? So sudo pip install psutil, which we were doing. If you were following along, we did that as part of our process a minute ago. I'm going to go ahead and run it again. It should say it's already satisfied, right? And it's satisfied for Python 3 right here, right? So requirement already satisfied. Home Pi, so I believe I'm already there. It's pwd, right? Home Pi, right? And then in the Home Pi directory, we're going to make a directory, mkdir, Pi Health. Right? So we're just switching gears for those that are trying to figure out what the heck is going on. We're going to switch gears to do the health dashboard because we're already connected to the initial state and we already have things semi-working. And I want to see how this works. If it works currently, then I really honestly think that we have some, and I think we already know this, we have a formatting issue, but this will give us examples of how we maybe can modify the data to pop the right information, okay? So make directory Pi Health, and then we're going to switch into the directory Pi Health. All right, so we're in the directory Pi Health. There is a script that we need to do, right? So here's the scripts, and over here, we want to do sudo nano, and the script is called Pi health.py. It's going to open that up and copy the raw contents. Hopefully, nope. Okay. Something is killing me. I'm just gonna breathe. It won't paste. It hates me. It won't right mouse click. Paste, Control U. Cut buffer's empty. Thank you very much. I grab all of that. Control C. Control U, it doesn't like that, doesn't like Control V, it's not letting me copy any of this. And then, okay, I don't understand why that copy worked at all. I right mouse clicked. Right mouse click, copy, right mouse click, and then it shows up. So this is the Pi Health, right? And this is, again, where we need to put that access key, needs to go right there. Okay. And that, again, comes from your My Settings under your account. Right. You should be able to copy this. I need to go down with my cursor. So that did allow me to paste. All right. So I was able to use the menu to paste. So computer Pi 3 performance, we're going to change that to a 4 just because I'm running a 4. And again, you just ID bucket is whatever you want to make it. Okay. So going back to the Pi Health. So we copied this. Right. We did the same thing we did on the last project. We need to change our key here. And minutes between read, 1 minute is fine. I think that's the only thing we really need to change is adding our key right there. Okay. You will need to place your initial access key found, right? If you do not do this, the data will not be streamed. Okay. Minutes between reads based on your application, run the script, right? So we're going to do 1 minute because we're going to we're gonna play with it. All right, so then we've done that. So then we're gonna do Control O. Whoa, I'm on the wrong. So I'm on my PyHealth.py script. I just changed my access token here. I'm going to Control O to write out, and then Control X to exit. And then Python PyHealth. If you want to run the script in the background and be sure it does not exit, your SSH connection is broken or terminal is closed, you can use the following command. So we're just going to run the regular Python PyHealth code here, right? So Python PyHealth.py, and we're going to see what happens. Should be an integer, not a string. What? No, really? PyHealth line 80 module main CPU get temperature. PyHealth and get temperature returns a float. Argument should be an integer or bytes like object, not string. So that's going to be line 21. Line 21. Return float. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Never, this has always worked. This has always worked. Man. And I don't think we didn't modify that at all. We didn't do it by accident or anything. Process P open, measure temperature. Down here, this is where it's talking about get temperature.
Modified the bucket name. I don't know if that changes anything.
So the bucket name here, oh, this bucket name here.
Yes.
That shouldn't. Yeah, because that's just like, I mean, that's just that's the only other thing I did change, which that, and then the error though is kind of down here in this space right here, and where we have a string here, and it wants a float of some sort, like it wants it in the float format. I mean, an integer format. I'm gonna hit Control X, right? So line 80 in module main. Then it says right here, line 27 in module main, the temperature, get temperature. And then line 21 and get temperature, get CPU temperature, return float. And so returning a float. Argument should be an integer or bytes like object, not a string. But we're returning a float. Which is not a string. So 21, 27, and then 80. So like 21 is right in here, right? I wish it had numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 21, return float. So we're returning a float. I mean, can we return integer? And get rid of the decimals? I mean, is that what's going on? So Mike, which one works for you? This program works for you, or the previous one's not working, right? This one? Because I see that in the chat. It works.
I got the process one showed up as a graph that nothing's going on, and I've got this one to work, and I'm opening up windows right and left here and creating a bunch of traffic. It's showing the CPUs going up and down
Okay, yeah.
and the temperature on the processor.
All right, so then, yeah, so I'm not sure why. Is anybody else run this and not run into the same issue that I've got, right? I'm now like for line 80. So you see, I wonder,
Did
do
you
I have something?
reset did you reset your initial thing? Click on your sine wave up there and then reopen it? Or yeah, just go and maybe on your username, click onto something and then go back into there and then open it up and see if something else pops up. That's what I had to do in order to get both of them, or all three of them to show up.
So what my issue though is like my script is broken. Does anybody else have the same, same issue? So Sarah, you have the same issue, the script problem?
Yeah, the string and problem.
Yeah, same error.
Okay, so we. And I'm wondering, it's not going to be that, so. I'm curious, like why, returns a float, I mean, when we return an integer, was it going to cause a problem here? Not that it doesn't already have a problem. Argument should be an integer, not a string. So I'm going to go back. Oops. I'm going to go back to and replace that float. I think it's getting converted somewhere else. Return float, string bucket name, CPU. So that's 21, 22, 23, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. So in this streamer log CPU temperature, that's just the name of the device. And then we've got CPU temperature equals all of this. So we're converting it from Celsius to Fahrenheit. That's what it does. And then string log CPU temperature, then that's string right there. So do they want this to be an integer? Like that's literally what it sounds like is happening. They want that to be an integer. I don't know. Oh crap. But it breaks here, right? So then Control O. The lines didn't change. The error didn't change. Lines 21, 27, and 20 and 80. So it doesn't really matter what happens there. Somewhere else, something else is happening. Is this gap supposed to be here? So it's just handing over CPU temperature, which it just converted to a float or it just did the math on it. And then it converted it. It's adding it to a string with 2. Doesn't make any sense to me. That's why I'm sure it's going to make sense when we see it, but
Carrie, it's Sarah.
Mhm.
In the shelf, now there's 3 options listed on my side.
over here.
Yeah.
So what do you have? What does it say?
Pi 3 performance and processes.
Wow. So, okay. So then if you hit Pi 3 performance, do you?
Unfortunately, it just says listening for data and nothing really else.
Okay. So it created the bucket, but not it's not pulling, we're not pushing any data because we're getting these errors on the side, right? So that's
Okay.
what. So Python H, if you get an error referencing Python H, try using the PS utility in a script, install Python development libraries may resolve the error. We're not getting that error. If you want to script the background, that's not helping us either. Oh, I hate ending the day on. I don't have a problem having issues, but I don't like ending the day. So cancel that, just control X out of that. Oh, I did stuff back, I need to save it, yeah. I don't understand why argument should be an integer or bytes-like object, not a string. But we make it a float. And everything else, so you're not getting any data, but it created a bucket, right? Mine's not creating a bucket. I'm not even getting that far. I'm sorry. I wish this would have. So this is weird because literally we did this lab in April. Right, so it's only been 2 months since we did this lab and it worked perfectly fine with the same exact stuff. So I'm not sure like why I'm getting the error. Is everybody else getting, is somebody not getting this integer error? Or is everybody getting the same error? That's just a bunch of dashboard. So what you should be getting in that space is something like this, right? All this crazy data, right, from all of your, and like I said, it's worked. Someone must have improved. Yeah, somebody did something somewhere. I'm trying to figure out, what it worked. Yeah, it was fine before. Which is why I was hoping like we can jump over to that, see the code, see how they would pull the data up onto the, and you can see these, the data being pulled up there and get a sense of what we're talking about, right? This is also, this is a dashboard. You can create a dashboard that pulls this information about your computers, right? So that you can have it trigger on, temperature, CPU temperature getting too hot. Again, another, dashboards and sysadmin kind of go hand in hand. And these ones, like I said, in the past have worked perfectly fine. This literally worked 2 months ago without errors, first time through. I'm wondering if I did, if I did something goofy along the way or the copy wasn't right. I don't know what the issue is there. All right. Well, crud. Okay, I think at that point we probably should stick a fork in it, right? we could keep fighting as much as we want. I'm gonna have to put the initial state stuff kind of on the back burner. Because seems like there is, I don't know if it's not being, I'm not sure if it's not being, kept updated. Obviously, I don't think if we're having these errors and these errors weren't there 2 months ago, then there's some issue there. So, which is unfortunate because it's a really cool process to see. The other one, and I haven't done this one in a while. So this one's another dashboard. This is Cayenne, and I don't know what I've used it like once in the past, but it's got the same kind of thing. I'm afraid of costs and things like that. I don't want to. So sign up for free, and usually that means there's gonna be costs somewhere along the line. Let me investigate that. The idea of having that, pulling a dashboard is a pretty fundamental is it Adfruit.io?
Yes.
Okay, because somebody, I think SparkFun had something like this too, but they just all of a sudden stopped doing it. So, so Adfruit.io.
Yeah, I think there's.
Is it through their
Yeah, you can go
website?
to Adafruit and just look for Adafruit.io. Yeah, the IO there. Uh-huh.
All right,
Yep.
so let's put both of them. We're gonna utilize the oh, I don't have Miro up and running because I killed everything I was working on. I want to put this one and Cayenne, and we'll leave initial state on that same kind of, right? Because they're all ways to create kind of dashboards. So I'll do some investigation and see if we can't maybe circle back around a little bit later in the week on those. I gotta remember what my. So Cayenne, I want to take a look at those. So we have Cayenne, we have Adafruit.io. And then initial state will be moving to the bottom of the list. They're on my list now. So messing up my afternoon. All right. Okay. Yeah. I think we should stop there. That would be good. One other. So we're going to exit out this. Close that connection. Close that one, close that one. And then, okay. So at this point, like, yeah, we're gonna have to end on a, we can end, yeah, we should end, right? So we have 27 minutes. I'm not sure we can recover anything valuable from a project standpoint in 27 minutes. Apologize. I just, I've used initial state for a long time, and this was literally the first time I've run into a problem on initial state. And then I'm really kind of surprised that both labs didn't function the way we were expecting it to. And we got a weird error there. So I don't know. I'm not sure what that is. So I apologize for that. I mean, I think that's the risk that I take when we do labs live, especially when I'm choosing labs that I haven't tried before, right? So the lab this morning worked great, right? The AdGuard lab was exactly what was expected, and the afternoon one just didn't go the way I wanted it to. So, but I think the idea, right? That idea that if you install something like, and then we can. If we can get one of these dashboards to work the way we want it to and have it watch these services, then that becomes like, we're locking in, as far as I'm concerned, like in the CIS world, right? We're locking in on, teaching the monitoring, maintenance of a system by creating these dashboards. And so that's why I chose the way to go that way. So what I'd like to do tomorrow, though, I know that we've had some requests on the web servers. Again, we're gonna use tutorials like that are typically maintained, right? So I think the initial state ones is they would put there and they just kind of languished a little bit. So we're gonna try. I want to try those 2 web tutorials, right? So the first one is using LAMP, right? And the second one is using Python and Django. So we will do some programming as part of that lab to start answering the question. Thursday, we're going to be playing with the Pico, right? So for the first time, and that is all programming. That entire, it's all going to be MicroPython, right? So it won't be. Well, we'll see when we get there. I haven't tried it before. So yeah, so that's the plan with that. So today is Tuesday. And I don't know, I think the web stuff will probably, well, I'm going to plan on 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. If we get them done quicker, then we'll jump onto something else. And then definitely all day Thursday will be exploring that Pico and programming using MicroPython. For that one. And then that still leaves us Friday morning to kind of wrap up or wrap in something that we haven't tried, something that we want to try that we really wanted to get to, and kind of go from there. I hope that answers the question. So there is programming coming. So I think we're actually going to build a website with Python. So that'll be good. Are there any other questions, any other comments, any other? I do wish that would have worked. I think it would have been totally cool. But it didn't. All right. The ad guard doesn't seem to be getting in my way, so that's pretty nice. Maybe it did. Maybe that's what's causing these problems. Too funny. All right, then welcome to drop off. Have a great evening. Yeah, rest your brains. And then we'll do this again tomorrow. So tomorrow we will work on the first 2 things we're going to do are the websites, and then we'll kind of move on from there into whatever else is of interest. Okay. Awesome. I'm going to stop the share now. I am going to stop the recording.